Hello and welcome to the Kelpies. Just behind me here is an amazing example of public art in galvanised steel, and it's two huge horses' heads. Now I'm going to just swing us around so that we can have another look at it from another angle here. Yeah, so this sits in what we call the Helix Park, which is a part of regenerated landscape close to Falkirk. It's 865 acres, so it's quite an amazing area to come and visit. But most people will be familiar with this incredible piece of art here by Andy Scott. It's called the Kelpies. Now the Kelpies, they connect with folklore and legend, ancient transformation of horses into water creatures, connecting with the Loch Ness Monster in a way as well, where if you see a white horse in a landscape, you've got to be very careful, because if you get near to that white horse can drag you to water and transform itself into a sea monster and drag you down into the depths. That's one connection with it, and it was the original vision to commission a piece of public art to connect with the folklore. But the artist Andy Scott had that in his head, but he had other inspirations too. There was a gigantic horse going back to the 1930s in Falkirk, and it was called Canara. Now Canara was named after a famous heavyweight boxer, Italian heavyweight boxer of the 1930s called Primo Canara, and the bar company who make Scotland's what we call other national drink, which is Iron Brew, spotted this huge horse. Now this horse is about 6.5 feet, 20 hands high, gigantic Clydesdale horse, and they thought, oh, good marketing idea. This was going back to the 1930s, so they bought the horse, and it was used to deliver Iron Brew around the local area here beside Falkirk. So that horse became a bit of a legend until, very unfortunately, he was on his way during a very icy day over the cobbled streets of Falkirk and slipped and fell, being an enormous horse. He had slipped beforehand, but on this occasion was unable to get up, and all the locals turned out en masse. Everybody was so sorry that this has happened, and Canara was fed buns and even given a mattress to lie on, but sadly he had to be put down. So he's a bit of a local legend, which Andy Scott, the artist who designed these incredible sculptures, he was very aware of. So he was paying homage to Canara. Now they're in galvanised steel, they're 30 metres high. Some of the most huge examples of equine architecture. In fact, his famous way of describing this type of work was equitecture in terms of equine and architecture. The material, being galvanised steel, of course, connects with the industrial past of this area. Before it was regenerated, there was much in the way of ironworks. The Cairn Ironworks, quite close to here in the central belt, and this was a very active area during what we call industrial revolution. There was coal mining as well, there was brickworks, and we had a canal system, Forth and Clyde Canal and the Union Canal, which meet close to this area, and so that is a big connection in terms of the Clydesdale horses, which used to pull the barges, like pulling coal, barges full of coal and other materials, and they had to be very, very heavy horses. These horses aren't just a figment of an artist's imagination. There were two existing horses, and one was called Baron, the other one was called Duke, and they used to give rides as entertainment at Falkirk Country Park close to Glasgow. So they were around when Andy Scott was designing these sculptures, and he described them as his muses, his great inspiration. Now, back in 2007, the initial idea was formulated about regenerating the area and commissioning such sculptures, and lottery funding was made available, about £25 million to fund the commissioning and the manufacture of these great heads back then. And it began to come to fruition in 2012 when work was started. And it's not the easiest of construction. These pieces of galvanized steel had to be curved and bent, and within them is a framework of tubular steel also. So in 2012 work was underway, and then 2014 they were completed and opened to the public. The Kelpies, incredible pieces of artwork. Now, Andy Scott is known for other works around this area, and we have the smallest shire, the smallest county, called Shire, close to here, and you would very easily come across an example of Andy Scott's artwork at some of the road junctions or roundabouts. In fact, there's one close to the Corkmannon Bridge, if you like, bridge close to Corkmannon, and it's called Journey to Nowhere. He's got another enormous male figure called Stride, which is a comment on movement and landscape and the sky. And another one called the River Spirit, which is a female human figure connecting with the River Forth in the intertwining and the way the River Forth intertwines through the landscape. So I'm just moving us around, get another example, another view of these amazing sculptures. You can actually get inside them as well and book guided tours, and they will tell you a bit more about the construction and so on too, exhibitions inside. He was very aware of what he would describe as shape shifting, because these sculptures take on different aspects with the change in the light and the change in the weather, and sometimes they're floodlit at night too, which makes them even more incredibly dramatic. So shape shifting, great word, great description, remarkable. And the fact of public art, and they're close to one of the main roadways, accesses to Glasgow, it is something to look out for on your way. Falkirk is not so far away from here. Falkirk. Why is it called Falkirk? Well, it was a major mixing of peoples from the highlands and the lowlands, and the name Falkirk comes from the Gaelic meaning speckled church, meaning speckled meaning a mixture of peoples. For kirk or for church, but it's also a major cattle tryst, a major place for meetings to sell sheep and cattle. So, the Kelpies. Just come back into view. So we'll move on and explore some of the other attractions in the Central Belt, and which are located close to the canal system.
So good afternoon, we're here and we're out of town. We're actually in the town of Falkirk, and we're showing you some of the attractions here in the town itself. It's an ancient old town, it's got great history. It's also got a great industrial history as well. But we're actually here where the two canals, we've got the Forth and Clyde Canal that goes from the east coast to the west coast of Scotland, joins with the Union Canal. Now, the Union Canal is about a couple of 100 metres higher than the Forth and Clyde Canal. So how do they join? Well, we've got this unique wheel here, the Falkirk Wheel. The idea behind this is that the boat will go in at the bottom and it will rotate 180 degrees to take you up to the top. So rather than have sets of locks, which you normally see in the canals, and indeed we do have the locks here in the canal as well, they actually drive the boat onto it. Now the canal system itself goes back to the canals were opened in the late 1700s, and this was mainly to provide protection for some of the ships, because Britain was at war with France a lot, and to get the ships from the east coast to the west coast, they would use the canal system. And Scots were well known for their engineering ability, and this is one of the great, unique feats of engineering here in the town of Falkirk as well. It's a great place to come and visit. It's a great cafe area here. Now the canal systems as well more or less follow the line of the Antonines Wall. When people think of the Roman history of Great Britain, they are under the misapprehension that the Romans had not come up to Scotland. Indeed they did. They were here for quite a number of years, and it was under Emperor Antonine that they extended their occupation up to this part of Scotland. The wall itself goes from the east coast to the west coast. It was made of turf, and there were forts all along it and little fortlets. And there were two legions who were involved in building this Antonines Wall. And if you go to the museum in Glasgow, you will see that there are mile markers, and they used to boast a lot, say, look what we've done, we're better than Legion 21, Legion 19 beats 21 again. And they actually put these boasting mile markers on the wall along it, and they've been preserved, and they're actually in the museum. Great things to go and see. And it actually was the Romans that gave Scotland the name of Caledonia. So when you come to Scotland, you may have heard there's 2 or 3 names for the country. You'll see the name Alba, A-L-B-A, which is Gaelic for Scotland. You might even see Écosse, which is French for Scotland. And you'll see the word Caledonia, which is Latin for Scotland. There's a great treasure troves that have been found here in Scotland, where the Romans, when they left Britain, they thought they were going to come back, and so they hid a lot of their silver. And the silver is now in the National Museum of Scotland. So this place in Falkirk here, in the middle of the country, has got quite a long history of Roman occupation and pre-Roman as well. Now, going back to the canal systems fell into disrepair in the 1960s. And indeed, they were a sad, sad case. But then a campaign was started to actually rejuvenate the canals and bring them back to life. And coming into the new millennium, various projects were given government money and lottery money to develop new ideas. And this wheel, the Falkirk Wheel, was one of the millennium ideas. And it was through the campaigns that actually opened up, cleaned up the canal system, and now they've become such a great leisure activity where people who will take the boat out for maybe a weekend, and they can take a narrow boat and go from east to west. It is a lovely place to do it, and the scenery here when you get into Falkirk is lovely. You have the hills in the background, you've got places to walk, you've got cafes, and you've already seen, you will see the Kelpies, which again another project, which has really brought this rejuvenation to this part of Scotland, which was post-industrial and a sad place. Now Falkirk is one of the major attractions here in Scotland, and would highly recommend it. There is another little connection that some of you may recall. I'm sure you've all seen the movie Braveheart. Well, it was actually here in Falkirk that William Wallace was actually captured when he was defeated at the Battle of Falkirk. He'd already won the Battle of Stirling Bridge. Stirling is only about 10 miles further north here. Edward I wasn't happy about the defeat in Stirling, came back up to re-invade Scotland. William Wallace met him here. Wallace was defeated, captured, taken down to London, and you all know what happened to William Wallace. He was hung, drawn and quartered, and parts of his body was distributed throughout the whole of Scotland to try and suppress the Scots. Didn't work very long, because then obviously Robert the Bruce came up here. But this part of Scotland is oozing with history, and we would highly recommend it when you're here in Scotland to take some time out and come and visit the town of Falkirk for its Roman history, It's history of the Wars of Independence, it's industrial history, and also this magnificent Falkirk Wheel here in front of you.
Something about the boats, Joe, that says Archimedes. You got some information why it's called Archimedes?
Well, it's Archimedes' principle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Eureka. So it's all done by, it basically it saves energy. So it's the overspill of the water goes in and it just tilts around. And it said it takes the energy of 4 or 5 kettles to boil a kettle. If you boil a kettle, 4 or 5, the amount of energy to boil it operates this whole wheel. So the whole principle of, remember Archimedes, he jumped in the bath, water displacement, Eureka moment. This is Archimedes' principle in action here in Scotland.
And it's open to the public, isn't it? You can go and on the wheel, and it takes you up to the next.
Yeah, the boat, you can go on, go, there's a little pleasure boat here, you can go in, you pay your ticket, you go onto the boat, and it'll take you up to the higher canal, the Union Canal. The Union Canal goes right into the city centre of Edinburgh. The canals here goes from Glasgow over to the River Forth at Grangemouth. So this is where the canals meet. And rather than having locks like we have here, if you can maybe spin around here, you can see the locks here. Rather than having the locks, they've designed this. It's unique. Again, we're showing you things in Scotland that are unique. So we're showing you the Kelpies and we're showing you the Falkirk Wheel. Normally a hive of activity, and with restrictions being lifted, we hope to see this open quite shortly as well. And later in the summer, when you come to Scotland, Mike and I will be happy to come and show you it, and then you can go on the boat and you can actually experience the wheel yourselves. So some people are interested in some of the facts behind the Falkirk Wheel, and it's very well displayed here. And one of it says here it's the world's first and only rotating boat lift. So another Scottish unique feature here. The concept is, this is the top, this is the bottom here, and the whole wheel turns around. So your boat goes into the gondola and then it switches around. And it rotates 180 degrees, and it takes about 5 minutes, it says here, for the rotation to take place. And I mentioned here the kettles, the use of energy, so it's very energy efficient. And I like the idea here, there was over 1,000 people engaged in the construction of this revolutionary rotating boat lift.